edition of In the Spotlight, brought to you by Crimson Cloak Publishing, the earth-friendly publisher with books for both adults and children in a wide variety of genres, available in paperback and hardcover, as ebooks, and with some audiobooks as well. In the Spotlight is a wide-ranging weekly interview show with authors, entrepreneurs, professionals, and other experts. Your host is Cynthia McGregor. Opinions and views expressed by the guests or hosts on this show do not necessarily reflect the opinions and views of the creator, Crimson Cloak Radio, the network, the hosts, or sponsors. And now, here's Cynthia.
Thank you very much, Carly, and folks, welcome to another edition of In the Spotlight, your weekly show. And our first guest this week is Gabriela Masala. Gabriela knew from the age of 3 that her mission in this lifetime was to transform human consciousness, and she has pursued that in the fullness of joy and passion through her adult life. A renowned yoga teacher and instructor in mind, body, spirit modalities, she was a founding member of the Deepak Chopra Center for Well-Being and a movement therapist for Canyon Ranch Health Resorts. Over the years, she has created or compiled various evolutionary consciousness practices that she used to accelerate her own advancement toward a soul-driven, unlimited life that applied the quantum laws in a way that was easy and sustainable. When many of her colleagues began asking her to share them, everyday magnificent practices to activate an unlimited life was born. Says Gabriela, using this guide for living an everyday magnificent life creates something uniquely self-authorized, defined and curated by each being. When we tap into our unlimited nature and wake up to our creative power and source connection, our current life mission becomes the driver, and every day becomes magnificent. All of life takes on a quality of being that is open to purpose, turned on, tuned into the creative, mysterious force of life, and guided playfully and lovingly from this source. We enter into a whole new playing field of life on Earth. Welcome, Gabriela.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Pleasure to have you here. Gabriela, by age 11, you were experiencing a full-blown love affair with the divine. Please share more about that with our audience.
Sure, you bet. I have always felt so deeply connected to the mystery of life, and from a very early age felt such an affinity with the invisible realm, the invisible world, the truth that I knew in my heart, that I still know by heart, that is really not validated by a lot of our sort of ruling paradigms and consensus reality. And by the age of 11, I made a choice internally that I was going to be loyal and devoted and committed to the love and the wholeness and the mystery and the magic that I felt that was not at all validated or reflected back to me in daily life. And when I turned, I think it was Joseph Campbell who said, when we take one step towards the gods, they take 10 steps running towards us. And so that's really what happened for me at about that age. I just got, I'm putting all my eggs in this basket. My loyalty is to the one, to the mystery, to the divine, and felt completely immersed and surrounded and held by that love. And it's been my sustenance ever since.
Gabriela, what was your inspiration to create this book?
Well, Everyday Magnificent, as you shared in the introduction, is a journal. It's actually a interactive, expressive arts and mindfulness journal that is full of practices, activities, touchstones that the reader or participant engages in to wake up to their own self directed experience of what a magnificent life is to them. So, what inspired me was that over the years, I've been collecting and practicing so many of these activities that really light me up and get me directly connected to the source of life, and that tap the intelligence of the heart, whole brain heart coherence and intelligence, the instinctual wisdom of the body that get us alive and um, vibrating with possibility. And so, working for decades with my clients and seeing how they transformed, and with groups, and really feeling like I wanted this to be able to reach many, many more people without my being there. And so that was the inspiration to really create a template for people to use in an interactive way themselves, where they can deepen their intimate relationship to that invisible realm and light up the wholeness of our human divine intelligence that is always accessible.
Why is it a journal instead of a book you just read?
Well, the reason that it is an interactive journal is because it really is about a lifestyle, and it's about engaging with your own hand in writing and journaling prompts, sentence stems, appreciative inquiry questions, using your own symbols and images within these blank circle templates, mandalas, engaging in all of these different kinds of meditation activities, because it's about participation with the divine part of our being. It's an interactive experience that just reading something conceptually with words uh, doesn't give the embodied kinesthetic experience of lighting up from the inside out. It's the practices themselves.
For our listeners who don't know what a mandala is, would you briefly explain?
Yes, I'd be happy to. So, mandala simply means magic circle in the Sanskrit language, and they're used cross culturally all over the world. And mandala, in the sense of the journal, is borrowed from the work of Jungian therapist Carl Jung. And this work is really about taking an empty circle, a template, just like if you would trace a plate and you're left with an empty circle, and then using colors, crayons, colored pencils, pens, whatever it is, to fill the circle with color, image, symbol. Some words are okay, but we're in this practice, we're wanting to really activate that creative, intuitive part of the brain that speaks through us in symbol and imagery. And so what happens is that just in the process of putting color in a circle, which takes us out of the box, literally, and into the circle, which is a sacred geometry symbol of wholeness, our brain comes into a state of integration. We develop a heart brain coherence. We're able to bring closure, wholeness, deeper understanding to any parts of our own psyche that have been fragmented. And so that's how the mandalas work in this book.
And what if a person doesn't have any artistic abilities? Can this book still help them?
Absolutely. In fact, in my work in the art therapy world, and even as a dance therapist as well, I really have come so clear into the understanding that all of us are dancers, all of us are artists, all of us are singers, that these are in many indigenous cultures, these simple practices of singing, dancing, making art, telling stories, expressing ourselves creatively. They are medicine, they're a way of life. And so this book is not about product art. It's not about creating something quote unquote beautiful or for the public. It's an intimate, expressive, creative journal for one's own development. That's really about the process. It's about the journey. And so many riches are revealed. So I really ask for participants to leave that critical, judgmental part of our brain that may have a time and place where we need its intelligence, but to ask it to step aside and to really step into the playfulness, the wonder, the curiosity, the part of us that is a born creator and artist, and really make art of our whole lives.
Can a journal such as this transform daily life?
That's a great question. I would say that the practice, the earnest, willing practice with a playful and curious approach absolutely can change patterns, can ignite new possibilities, can entrain someone from a life of uh, repetitive, habitual, mental habits of thinking, feeling, being, and it can really shift the attention to orienting life from the intelligence of the heart, from the playfulness and spontaneity of the moment, and ultimately really help over time to support someone to develop a deeper relationship to their own innate genius. And from that place, absolutely, I've seen it transform many lives.
You talk about having a direct line to source. Why is that important?
Well, the reason that I feel that this is vital, especially at this time on our planet when there is such an overstimulation of information, of media, of consumerism. I mean, for most of us that live in the Western world, we are inundated with information and overstimulation. And so having a direct line to source, whether someone refers to that as a faith practice or a meditation practice or whatever of the many names of the divine that we might call that source energy that is within us, all around us, having that direct line really gives someone a sovereign space to be able to find quiet and peace within, to be able to develop their own intuitive and heart knowing so that they can stay on center, especially in this world of growing artificial intelligence and virtual reality, so that each being for themselves, when they have a direct line to what I'm going to call source or the mystery or great spirit or God, then can really discern for themselves what is true and real at the heart of matter for them.
What do you mean by unlimited nature or living an unlimited life?
That's a great question, too. So, for me, the unlimited part of our nature is the part of our being, our divine human being, that goes beyond the mental and narrow thoughts, feelings, expectations, and cultural agreement fields. And so we are asking in this journal, we're asking the participant to connect additionally to that part of their nature that is deep seeing, deep knowing, deep feeling, that has a heart intelligence that is beyond what the mental analytical part of our brain could ever give us, that has a whole brain intelligence, a whole intuitive, creative imagination, and really harnessing that as a taproot to our unlimited being, to the vast potential, right? So that this is where the conversation of quantum based reality comes in, that we're not in a reality per se that is as Newtonian reality once set out for us, matter in a world of matter. Since the 1920s, scientists have proven what sages and mystics and indigenous people have always known, that we're actually energy in a world of energy. And so the unlimited part of our nature and then living an unlimited life is orienting from that world where we are energy in a world of energy, and being in the very playful discovery and adventure of that.
You call one of the main practices unity coherence. Gabriela, would you tell us what that is?
Sure. So we can even practice it for a moment together, Cynthia. So wherever you are, if you're able to do so and not driving a car, you can just close your eyes for a few moments and start connecting to your breath, bringing awareness of the breath to the heart, the chest, all around as if it's breathing you 360 degrees in and out, connecting to our root, our feet, feeling our connection to this living, thriving, vibrating life force of the earth itself, feeling ourselves deeply connected to it, no separation. And then from this place, blessing our bodies, blessing our hearts, blessing the mystery of our unique spark of spirit or being, opening up at the crown of the head to connect to all of the life force of the sky, of the celestial realm, stars and galaxies, and then breathing deeply here as we connect to just gratitude for the miracle of life, gratitude for this unified field in which we are held, which we are an intimate interbeing part of, not separate. And it's as if we're drinking in here with our breath, drinking in life force, drinking in energy from the sun, from the sky, drinking in energy from the earth, and literally in training to the vibrational field of unity, bringing our heart brain into harmony, coherence, deepening the breath, softening our presence, and coming into a deeper awareness that we are one vibrating, scintillating source and force of energy.
Do chakras figure into this?
That's a great question. I would say absolutely. I love to consider that the chakras or the energy centers, the vortices of energy within our bodies, and most would say that we have about 7 or so of those in our bodies, but that there are several below and above as well. And these are our energy centers. Each one of them has a ganglion of nerves and a brain and has intelligences. So I love to integrate the intelligences of each of those chakras or energy centers. And it's our divine circuitry. It's part of what makes us human. And yet, if we're not activating them with intelligence and circulating our breath, our energy, our movement, our love through them, they can be corrupt or blocked up in the same way that we might get eddies in the stream of a creek and get stagnant waters.
That's a wonderful description. What are the touchstones in the book? Why are they useful in daily life?
The touchstones in the book are, I'd say, the most simple and swift ways of all of the practices offered. And there's probably about 40, 50 or so different practices, expressive arts, energy medicine, mindfulness meditations, etc. And the touchstones are 60 seconds to 3-minute practices that literally help us to shift our state from a place of high beta brain waves, which would be stress or anxiety, or when we're not grounded, when we're too mental or in state of worry, whatever the case may be. These simple touchstones help us to regain balance, coherence, to deepen breath, to become more energized, to pause and get more connected to the magic of life. So the reason I love these, Cynthia, is because we can do them almost anywhere, anytime. And then they are pretty much immediate ways of shifting back into a state where we are back into a flow or in the zone or in that state where we're able to be more available for the magic of life.
Gabriela, how does this journal process tap into whole brain intelligence?
Great question. So anytime that we look at the perspective of consensus reality agreements, we're really looking through just one part of the brain. Again, we could look through the lens of science and call it Newtonian science, which is separation, a paradigm of separation. We could look through the lens of the artist, of the mystic, of religion, you name it. But we are so much more than a mentally driven, defining, measuring, logical, linear perspective. We actually are whole beings. And so integrating that feminine or creative part of the brain as well allows us to also receive the bounty of wisdom that comes from our intuition, the intelligence of other senses like telepathy or clairvoyance or clairsentience. Like, these are not far out senses. These senses are available to all of us. But when we integrate the whole brain intelligence, we're able to receive access to it. So that what would it be like if we were living as a human family in a way where our whole brain was activated, where we were able to collectively value intuition and value imagination and value our ability as divine creators to use our imagination for good, to create a world of more beauty, of more stewardship, of more harmony, of more respect, so that using that whole brain coherence, these exercises are all about driving home to our deepest heart's knowing and to the wholeness of our perception, so that we are living life and orienting in life from a much more profound level of awareness. And that's really available through our whole brain being lit up. We've just begun, I think, as a humanity to learn what it really means to be whole in our perception of life.
Well, now, it seems to me that a lot of what you are promoting involves meditation. And I may be wrong, and correct me if I'm wrong, but what if you're a person like me? I have a heck of a time meditating. I can't stay focused on nothingness. My runaway brain, our minister calls it a monkey brain. My runaway brain just keeps going off in 10 different directions. What if you're like me? What if you're like me?
That's a great question. And Cynthia, what I know about you is that you've also published over 100 books and that you have just given amazing service and love and creativity to the world. So I would really recommend that you look through the lens that you have many ways of meditating. They may not look like again, a limited picture of meditation is that it's just focusing on nothing or space or just seated on a cushion somewhere. But part of what I love about the everyday magnificent process, and what I already sense about you, is that you are already meditating in many, many ways in the living meditation of life. That how we show up to our creative work, our professional work, to parenting, to gardening, to cooking, to walking through the world, that it's really about a meditative state is ultimately about bringing it to a meditative life.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
And thank you for studying me. You knocked me for a loop when you knew that I'd had over 100 books published. I didn't.
Yeah, great titles too. I'm so grateful for what you've shared.
Thank you. Gabriela, there's a practice called dream designs. What is that and how does it work?
Dream designs are based within the mandala activities that we touched on earlier. So a dream design starts off what the participant will see, right? Because it's not really my book, it's your book. It's whoever opens it up and fills it up with their own words and colors and practices. And so the dream design looks like an empty oval. And then the directive or instruction, based on what's being revealed through the deeper inquiries and the activities that are bubbling through the journal process, there are dreams that we want to bring into fruition from our imagination, but also connected to our own deepest knowing of why am I here on the planet? What am I meant to bring forth, right? Think about all that you've birthed from your creative life. So someone would start off with this empty oval, and in a very small kind of monochromatic picture, they might put a picture of themselves now having an idea or having a vision. And then in the larger scope of the circle, and we're talking energy sketches, it's fine to use stick figures, it's fine to use images. This doesn't have to be, production quality. And then you fill up in the fullness of expression and color and form a visual offering of what that dream in its fullest manifestation would look like. So, if we were to use the example of one of your books, you have an idea for a great book that you want to create. You make a small picture, perhaps, of yourself seated with the little idea of a book, and then we fill up the rest of that dream dimensionalization with the full color. Maybe there's the title, maybe there's hundreds of people reading it, maybe there's the energy with color and symbol and form of what it would feel like and what it would look like to have that fully manifest. And so it really works with these amazing principles that have been well researched, where first we imagine and we dream it. Then we give it form and image from the imagination from the inside out. We draw it. Then we fill it up with color. And while we're doing that, we feed our awareness with how we want to feel when that's completely manifest, what it will look like, who it will touch, how it will be met in the world, so that we're matching our imagination and our thought with an emotional elevated state within images. And the brain, amazing that our whole brain, when it sees images and it receives that marriage of the electromagnetic, emotional, and thought energy, it starts to wire and fire, and it gets busy bringing that into form. So this is such, in some ways, a simple practice, but it really is a beautiful practice, because then we have that dimensionalization that we can revisit and we can keep looking at, and we can give it energy and love as we're going to sleep at night, and we can turn over to that page and remember, I can see it, I can believe it, I can bring it into being. And that's how the dream dimensionalization works. And that's how creating a magnificent life works.
Gabriela, we have only about 3 minutes left. Will you please, first of all, tell our listeners where they can buy Everyday Magnificent Practices to Activate an Unlimited Life? Where is it available?
You bet. Everyday Magnificent is available on Amazon.com. It is also available on my website, www.gabrielamasala.com. That's Gabriela, Masala, Masala.com.
Okay. And is it available through the publisher or no?
Balboa Press. Yes, it is. BalboaPress.com.
That's a division of Hay House, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And quickly tell us who you think the ideal reader is of your book.
The ideal participant for this book is someone who perhaps already is open to the power and the joy of journaling, and who is willing to get curious and playful and become more intimate with their own inner being, and someone who really is ready to take a leap and start to see life and the world in a much more expansive and playful and magnificent way.
Well, thank you very much, Gabriela Masala. I have to do a commercial now and then bring on my next guest, but mega sales to you, and thank you for being a wonderful guest on my show.
Thank you. Thank you for all you bring to the world, Cynthia. Be well.
Thank you. You be well too. God bless. Okay. Folks, remember that In the Spotlight is brought to you by Crimson Cloak Publishing for a wide variety of books, both fiction and nonfiction, for adults and for children. Everything except erotic romance. No erotic romance, but well, I don't think we have any cookbooks yet either, but send us one, and if it's good, they'll publish it. And this week we're featuring a book about unicorns. Unicorns are very popular these days, and Crimson Cloak Publishing has a book called I Wish I Had a Unicorn. And it's a children's book, a picture book, and it's about a little girl who wishes she had a unicorn so she would be more popular with the kids in her new school. And by the end of the book, she learns a valuable lesson about why she doesn't need a unicorn, but in the meanwhile, she does get one. So, buy this book for your young child or grandchild. And now I'm ready to bring on, and you can buy Crimson Cloak Publishing books on Amazon.com or on crimsoncloakpublishing.com. And I'm ready to bring on my next guest, Terrie Christine. Terrie.
Hey, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Awesome. Should I turn my video off?
You can turn your video off or on as you wish. It's not showing either. It's not showing to the audience either way. Only I can see it.
Okay, I'll leave it on. And I have a bit of a cold. I woke up this morning, so I'm so sorry. So I'm going to be hacking and coughing, but I'm going to do my best to make it quiet.
It's not audible that you have a cold, so don't worry about it. If you need to blow your nose, go ahead. I won't mistake it for a San Francisco foghorn.
Thank you.
You're welcome. God bless.
Thank you.
Okay. Terrie Christine, as an intuitive energy healer, Terrie Christine has mastered the ability to access her own intuition. This allows her to fully envision the struggle, hurt, fears, and anxiety you are currently going through. Terrie helps people access clarity, results, understanding, a sense of peace, and freedom by clearing away your stories and fears wrapped around old energetic blocks that hold you back. Within a matter of seconds, she can uncover the history of the experience you faced that led to the creation of your limiting beliefs. Terrie works with clients all over the world and continues to be a source of emotional and spiritual healing in the self-empowerment community. She's coming to the show to share with the world how our listeners can connect into their own intuition, and she wants to talk to us about how she can help and to share her book, The Secret Power of You. And Terrie, what is the secret power? What is the secret power that you're talking about?
Thank you so much. I'm so honored and grateful to be here. And, it's something that I had to learn on my own as I was at the end of a 14-year relationship and, living so far outside of myself to make my partner happy and my children happy. And then when I finally severed those ties and spent the time to go within myself, meaning trust what that feeling feels in your stomach. And here's a perfectly good example, is that you're at work and you walk into a room and then you're saying to yourself, man, something weird just happened in this room. What is going on? And there might have been 2 or 3 people in there and you don't know, they're just sitting there, but it's connecting and feeling and trusting. That's the key component. Trusting that feeling and knowing that something is and just did happen. They could have had an argument, an interaction that was negative, and then you walked in and you felt the energy from that. And then another perfect example is that, somebody offers you a fabulous opportunity. And the more they talk, the more you go, ooh, that doesn't feel right. They're like, oh, no, this is perfect. You're going to walk away with hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then you decide, because based on what they said, to go in and step into it, but your gut is telling you something else. And then here you are 3/4 through that experience or whatever that offer is, and then it comes back to bite you and you're like, oh, I knew that and I did it anyway. And that is that intuition, that feeling inside that we push it away or say it's a coincidence. And it isn't a coincidence. It's that feeling, that truth within you.
Terrie, what's your backstory as it relates to the book?
1 second, I'm going to cough.
Go ahead.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
It's all right. I can't catch your germs through the computer.
No, you
Besides,
can't.
I never
So
get sick anyhow.
Oh, thank you. So everybody put their hands over the face. So my backstory is how I got to where I am. You know, I briefly just mentioned it was at the end of a 14-year relationship, and he was a commitment phobic. He wouldn't, we were together, had 2 beautiful children, and he just said, I'm committed, but he wasn't willing to commit to me being his wife. And I felt so distant, so disconnected. I kept giving and giving and giving. And when a person keeps giving to where there's nothing left, and that's what kept happening, I kept giving, and there was nothing left in me. And so I woke up in the bed, him laying next to me 3 months before the end of that relationship, and I crawled out of the bed, and I went to the bathroom and laid on the floor. And I remember feeling those cold tiles right underneath of me, and my eyes were closed, and I had this strange sense that I was floating. And then, with my eyes closed, I literally knew I was in the universe. I saw stars so close I thought I could touch them, and I had this dampness around me. I could taste it and feel it. And then I heard 3 words. Love will come. Now, for anyone that understands that mental illness or feeling so in despair that you don't have anything left and you really just want it to end. And some people are ending it by taking their own life, but I knew I couldn't do that. And so I just wanted God to stop my heart. And I'm using that phrase, God, for just, source, higher light, whatever you're calling it. But I'm going to use God. And I wanted God to just stop my heart because of the pain of not receiving what I was giving. And when I got those 3 words, it boomeranged me back into my body, and I went back to bed, and I woke up, and my entire life changed. Because if you've ever been so down and so deep where you have nothing else left to give or feel or say or believe, then any slight feeling of hope, and those 3 words gave me hope and brought me up higher to say, oh my gosh, I can do this. Love is coming. And then the next day I went to Barnes & Noble. I was a cookie mom. I took care of the house. And I had a full-time job as a director of sales. So I was in corporate world America, and I was the one. It was kind of like a 1940s life that I lived. He went to work. I went to work. He came home as soon as the dinner was on the table. I cleaned it up. I took care of the kids. I read to them, and he read the paper and whatever. But, it wasn't satisfying enough for me.
I don't think that's satisfying enough for anybody.
No, and that's what he wanted. And I did it for 14 years, and I just wanted more. And so finally, I had to leave, and I allowed the pain to catapult me to where I am today. And when I had that spiritual epiphany, it raised me enough to know that I can get it. I just didn't have it inside of me because I was giving it and giving it and giving it and not receiving it. And finally, I realized it's already inside of me. And then that's where I started learning intuitive development and mediumship and crystals and essential oils. I mean, I could go on and on and on and on. And I read some amazing authors that I know your listeners have heard of. Esther and Jerry Hicks, Wayne Dyer, Eckhart Tolle. I could go on and on with those too. And I didn't know any of them. And it was just, I was pulling them off the shelf and brought home like grocery bags full of books. And because I was so busy, I usually read about 1 book a year. I was reading 2 a week. I don't even know how I was doing it. I was absorbing it like a sponge, and I came in a candy store. I couldn't get enough of it. And I was learning, and I got enough strength at the end. And I said it was 3 months before the end, I left him. And then I spent 5 years of clearing my limiting belief, of letting go of my mama drama, my dad drama, my relationship, my lack in money, because I was born with 2 teenage parents, with 3, my brother and sister and me, And we were not triplets. My mom was 18 and had 3 kids. And so I had to literally go so deep and invest in myself and learn and work with people that could help me dig in that subconscious space. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Absolutely. I'm following every word.
So when I was able to move into the space of helping myself and trusting, I decided that these things started coming to me. I would be at the grocery store and someone would walk up to me and start telling me their horrible relationship about their spouse abusing them. Or how another woman come up to me in a coffee store and said she has no money and she doesn't know how she's going to feed her child. And I'm going, oh my God, all this stuff is coming at me. And, it's out there in the world, but I never really knew anybody that had such extreme experiences. And then I realized that I wasn't alone. And I realized that I can let go and live a very healthy, wealthy, ease and grace life and stop focusing on what's outside of me and turn it all within.
You mentioned the term limiting beliefs. What are limiting beliefs?
So a limiting belief, I love your questions, thank you. A limiting belief is usually created before the age of 7 between a caregiver such as your mother or your father. It doesn't mean that they were physically or emotionally abusive. It just simply means that in the experience that you had with them, they could have been saying, no, don't do that, or come here, or do it my way. And then you as the child decided as you're interacting with that caregiver what you don't want, couldn't have, couldn't see, want more of. And then you owned it. Like, I'm never going to let mother tell me how to make my bed. I'm going to do it myself. And then here you are an adult and you struggle with female authority because you're triggered with someone telling you, quote unquote, what to do. And so those limiting beliefs are in the subconscious and they're triggered by the experiences around you. And most of the time we cannot pinpoint where they're coming from because it's in our subconscious. As we're growing older, they just kind of drift off to Neverland within the subconscious, and it's the experiences and the people around us that trigger us. You could even be triggered by someone waving their arms because dad could get angry and wave their arms a certain way, and then you say, man, that person, I don't like them, they're too aggressive, because dad was like that. And it simply is reminding you or triggering you of something within your subconscious. And so that's where the limiting belief is. You're saying, I'm not good enough because I'm not heard, excuse me, because. And then you find yourself working harder to get what it is that you want.
Now, go ahead and cough. I'll wait.
Thank you. Hold on. I am so sorry.
It's all right, sweetie. Don't worry about it. Take a sip of water. Take a sip of water.
You were so sweet. Thank you. I woke up like this. It's crazy. I'm letting go of something big.
Well, something's coming up out of you, and get rid of it, whatever it is. Don't hold it back. Get rid of it.
Absolutely. When people think, and while we're talking about this, so it's a cold, and we think, oh, I got it from someone else. And the reality is that, yes, my girlfriend visited me from New Zealand, and she was already starting to sneeze and cough, and I'm a hugger and a squeezer, and,
Me too.
Oh, good. And we should be, because what is this handshaking thing? There's a distance. I want you close to me.
Right.
And, and right before she came, I had already been purging some relationships and severing ties with some of these people because they weren't for my best and highest good. I felt that there was a lot of conflict, and sometimes the energy flow just has to move in a different direction. So there's no coincidence here that I ended up catching something that she was bringing on. However, it's allowing me to go deep in letting go of something that's really big, and in this case, it's in the form of a cold.
Terrie, what if you had the most wonderful parents in the world? Now, I'm not saying you did or I did, but what if somebody had really super parents? Can they still have limiting beliefs? Go
Excuse
ahead
me.
and
Yes.
cough. I'll wait.
Yes. The answer, yes, you can have limiting beliefs from a parent or parents that are super awesome. And here is a good example. I love that question. So I had a client come to me and she says, I keep attracting the same type of person. And I don't understand why. They're really not into me and I'm tired of it. Can you tell me why? So as I connected to her energy, I saw this very loving, giving father. He traveled quite a bit. And when he came home, he'd open the door and she'd run into his arms, and they'd spend hours catching up when he was, while he was away, catching up while they're together and sharing what she experienced while he was away. And then after a couple of hours, he would read a newspaper to catch up on what's going on in our country because he traveled internationally. And then she would play peekaboo behind the newspaper, and I saw it all in my mind's eye because I'm clairvoyant, I'm clairsentient, and clairaudient, which allows me to hear, feel, and see. And when I connect to someone's energy, I can see a movie in my mind. And I told her, I said, I feel such a connection with your father, and you were playing with him and playing peekaboo with the newspaper. And I said, and this is what you're doing in your relationships. I could feel the struggle within her. And so as I saw the stories in my mind, I saw her interacting with partners or whoever she was dating, and they wouldn't text her enough, quote unquote, or call her enough, quote unquote, or that they weren't giving enough or receive, back and forth enough for her. And she was sabotaging by constantly saying, you don't love me enough. You're not around enough. You're not hearing me enough. The thing is she was trying to create the same connection that her father gave her, that unconditional love, that I'm here for you, that I'm playing for you even though I'm for myself by reading a newspaper. And she was sabotaging each and every relationship by telling these people, these men, that they're not enough because she wanted more. And she couldn't pinpoint it until I was able to see the movie in my head. It was such an aha moment to allow her to say, everything is enough, that I can love this individual based on if they're making my heart sing, if I'm fully connecting and I'm interacting that it's an ebb and flow, and that she doesn't have to push them to get more from them. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's actually how I have several people that come to me. My mom was great. But then they want to recreate the feeling with mom, or they want to be like mom. And then in the subconscious, they say, oh, I didn't really want, I want to do things differently. And then before they know it, everyone is telling them, oh, the apple didn't fall far from the tree. And they're like mom.
Well, Terrie,
Thank you.
How can a person see their own limiting beliefs without coming to you for help?
So it is a little bit of a challenge. However, when you are triggered, and a trigger is when you first say, why did that person say that? Or why are they talking like that? Or it can be like your partner. Why aren't they giving more to me? Or whatever it is, why aren't they? And that's living on the outside. These are moments that you can stop, close your eyes, or even just step away from the person that you're in front of, or the experience, because it doesn't even have to be a person. You could be at a circus or amusement park and get triggered there because you could have had some bad experience that wasn't making you feel good when you were little. And then you're separating yourself to say, when did I feel that before? How old was I? Who was I with? And what happened? If you are taking the time to clear your mind so you can meditate, You can take a shower and clear your mind. I tell people, you don't have to meditate, sit in the corner, and journal. You don't have to do that. You could take 15 minutes, clear your space, meaning the head, right? Stop thinking about what's for dinner or what you're going to wear, and just clear your mind. You could do it when you're taking a shower, getting dressed, driving, and ask a simple question. Help me see my limiting beliefs. Help me overcome so that I can live with more ease and grace.
Now, some of us, myself included, manage to overcome our limiting beliefs without the help of a trained person like you or anyone else, and other people don't. And why is that? How is that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. The thing is, it depends on how much resistance. The good example for that one is that, and this is so rock on, because I know a lot of these listeners are going to say, yep, that's me. Relationship is that you might have a relationship, the person cheated on you, stole from you, lied to you, some really negative, dark energy. And then you say to yourself, I'll never forget that. I will never forgive him. I will never let that go because it will not happen to me again. And the thing is that if you're choosing to hang on to that, the other person is already living their life. They're not even thinking of you in their radar. They're going on and living whatever they are doing. And you're sitting here thinking in your mind, oh, I remember him. I won't let that. I'm going to do things differently. And now you're only living on the hamster wheel. So what happens is that you're not willing to forgive and let it go. It doesn't mean that you have to go back into being the light of fire. You can forgive, set the person free, and you don't have to talk to them anymore. You could do it, and unfortunately, it may come down to being a family member. That if a family member is so judgmental and so overbearing and so controlling that you feel like you're lost or frustrated and you can't get out of their vortex, that you just separate. If you have to leave, let it go, forgive them, and then don't think about them anymore. You do not have to be involved, even if it's a family member, and live your life happily ever after and move forward. And that's where the ones that are still hanging on to the past and the resistance, I'll never forget that, so that'll never happen again. And where others, such as yourself and some of the other listeners, are saying, I've forgiven this person. I feel blessed that I had the experience so that I could know how to set my own boundaries, so that I know when to say yes, no, and maybe, so that I know that I can hear if it's not making sense to me, that I can question it. And so it's teaching you how to expand and grow, and that's our purpose, to expand and grow. Everything else is a choice.
Well, Terrie, tell me, why do some people keep attracting the same people or the same situations into their lives?
Yeah, it is really about the same, the limiting beliefs that are in the same subconscious. So you could have a parent. I love this question because based on your parent, most of us are born and we're with our parents until between the ages of 17 and 21, whatever it is, some earlier, some later, depending, whatever, right? And then every day you see the same thing happening over and over. Mom and dad are getting up, they're going to work, mom's making breakfast, getting the kids ready, dad's getting ready to go to work. He usually leaves earlier, sometimes the mother leaves earlier, it just depends. But you see the same patterns, and those patterns become part of your subconscious. And that you don't know that, you're now doing the same thing, getting up, going to work, coming home, making dinner, and doing the same thing like a hamster wheel. And so you could be in a room with 100 people. Hold on. Sorry?
It's all right. Take a sip of water.
You're awesome. You could be in a room with 100 people. And because your subconscious is running your world, you could feel the energy of like, oh, I'm attracted to that person. I'm attracted to that person. And it doesn't necessarily mean the look. It means a feeling that you're getting from their physique or a picture. And then you find out, well, I keep attracting cheaters, or I keep attracting, people that live in lack, and then when you find out, when you see the same patterns, then you sit and think, how was your mom? How was your dad? How were your grandparents? Was there anybody in there that was not faithful to their spouse or to their partner? And let's say if you're attracting a cheater, and then if you say no, you could do the complete opposite, because you could say, I want someone like that. I want to have, someone that's there for me. And then there could be another trigger about lack. And then because maybe your parents had not a lot of money, and then lack and relationships kind of cross over. And then a person can find, like, money cheating on you. Like, you make the money and you lose it, or money disappears, or your spouse spends too much and it's disappearing. And so there's the combination of money cheating on you and then, or a spouse cheating on you. Does that make sense?
Makes sense. Makes total sense. Now, you work with people intuitively over the phone as well as in person, right? So
absolutely.
Let's talk about that for a minute. We'll get back to your book in a second, but suppose a person wants to work with you by phone. Where are you based? What city are you based in?
Yeah, I'm in Chevy Chase, Maryland, which is directly outside of Washington, D.C.
Uh-huh.
And even though I'm in Maryland, and your listener may be in California or Indianapolis or wherever they're listening from, that there is no time and space with energy. I have clients all over the world, and that I connect to you either phone or Skype or Facebook video messenger, and I feel what's going on because of my clairaudience, clairvoyance, and clairsentience that allows me to pick up what it is that's within your energy field. And then I can tell you the story and then remove it with some energy statements. So when I'm doing local work, if you're in the metropolitan DC area, I do hands-on healing where someone comes in, my back is hurting, my shoulders are hurting, my neck is hurting. And those are actually emotional blocks within the body that have been triggered into a physical pain. And so when I put my hands on them, people will walk out, they won't have shoulder pain or back pain. I just saw a client today, and she had fallen, broke her ankle so horribly, it looks like a tree trunk at the ankle. So I started doing energy work at the ankle, and she said, Terrie, I've never had anybody fix this. I've been to doctors, surgeons, and nothing, and I have no more pain in my ankle. So I started working on her back, because what I realized is that when you are having pain in one part of your body, you will compensate and then use more of the other part of your body. And so then her hips were out of whack, her back was out of whack, and she had a lot of pain. She came to me today and said, 90% of my pain is gone. I just have a little bit left, which was in her root. And then usually it stems from C6, 6, 7, right at where your neck and your spine meet. So I was shifting some energy from the 6, 7, 5, 6, 7, just by holding my hands and visualizing energy moving and the flow. And it eventually will get rid of all of it, all of her pain.
Can you do energy work by phone also?
Yeah, so that work is remote work where I close my eyes and I step into your energy. So I visualize you as a silhouette, and then I step into it, and then my body starts telling me. So I might feel my throat constrict, and it tells me either you're an introvert or you're challenged with speaking the truth. I might feel heaviness on my chest, which means it's about love, and you might have had a relationship recently. I can feel nauseous. Right there in your stomach is the solar plexus, is the portal of emotions, and so I can feel there's a lot of fear. I had just 2 days ago, I was working with a gal. I sat down in the chair, and all of a sudden I got this pain right in my temple, and I went, whoa. And she said, yeah, I have that every day. And so I'm like, okay, because she's her spine and her neck is out of alignment, which causes her to have shoulder pain, neck pain, head pain, and getting pains through her head. So I was just shifting all of her energy so she could feel better. She stood up and said she hadn't felt like that in years.
Terrie, we're running out of time. Tell me quickly, where can my listeners buy your book?
Yes, thank you. So my website is terriechristine.com. That's TERRIE, Christine, CHRISTINE.com, and it's also found on Amazon. I've sold over 900 copies before I even got it on Amazon. So
wow.
Obviously it must be a book that is helping people. It's a simple yet profound book that has techniques in there of how to get out of your monkey mind, how to see your limiting beliefs, and I teach intuitive development. So there's some techniques in there that I teach, and I'm giving it in the book, and it is The Secret Power of You, a guide to mastering your inner greatness.
The Secret Power of You. Okay.
Yeah. And it was also endorsed by Don Miguel Ruiz, who wrote The Four Agreements. I'm sure a lot of you have read The Four Agreements.
And the book is available on Amazon and on your website. And what about your publisher's website?
Well, if you go to my website, I have BookBaby as my publisher, and there's you can buy it from there. You can also click through my Facebook page too, Terrie Christine, to link through my publisher and my bookstore, my bookshop.
And can people also reach you for energy work through your website?
Yes, absolutely. So if you go to terriechristine.com and click on Work With Me, I do one-on-one remote work. I do what's called Power Stream. It's a live online group energy clearing. I do the first of every month. It's 90 minutes long, and it has a certain topic for every month. And for July 1st, it's Chillax and Manifest. So I'm clearing all the limiting beliefs wrapped around you being able to feel like you can relax and you can manifest to your heart's desire.
Well, thank you for manifesting a wonderful show, Terrie Christine. And feel better. Chicken soup, it wouldn't hurt.
Absolutely. Well, I'm a vegetarian, so I can eat other things. I'm doing a lot of vitamin C. I've got some fresh orange juice right here.
Okay, good. Take care. Feel better. Thanks for being here. And to all my listeners, remember the show is brought to you by Crimson Cloak Publishing for a wide variety of books, fiction, nonfiction, adults, kids. CrimsonCloakPublishing.com. Remember to pass a smile along, and I'll see you here next week. This is Cynthia McGregor. Bye now.
You've been listening to In the Spotlight with your host, Cynthia McGregor, brought to you by Crimson Cloak Publishing. For a wide variety of books for both adults and children in print, ebook, and audio formats, join us every Tuesday at the same time as In the Spotlight brings you interesting guests who entertain and enlighten you. I'm Carly McCracken. On behalf of Crimson Cloak Publishing, thank you for joining us, and we hope you'll join us again next week.